Emeka Okoro, 29, had built a modest yet growing tech consulting firm. Chinaza, 27, was a nurse in one of Lagos' bustling private clinics. Their love story began 5 years earlier in a bus terminal when they both missed their rides and spent the delay in conversation. That serendipitous encounter blossomed into years of shared dreams, supportive texts, fights and makeups, laughter and long calls. A textbook romance. The ceremony was lavish but deeply rooted in tradition. The couple honored both the Christian and Igbo cultural rites. Elders prayed over them, kola nuts were broken, and folk music played as guests cheered. The reception that followed was a scene of joy, the kind captured in glossy wedding magazines. Hundreds of guests gathered under a grand marquee. Plates overflowed with jollof rice, goat meat, pounded yam, and egusi soup. The live band played highlife music while the bride and groom danced to the rhythm, sprayed with naira notes by friends and family. But not everyone danced without concern. Whispers among friends. A few of Chinaza's close friends exchanged knowing looks during the ceremony. One leaned over to another and whispered, "Are we really sure about this guy? Didn't she say he slapped her once during an argument last year?" The other friend replied with a sigh. She said it was a mistake. He apologized. Maybe marriage will calm him down. They looked over at the couple still dancing. Chinaza laughed at something Emeka said in her ear. She looked happy. Or at least she seemed to. 1 week later, after a quiet family Thanksgiving and traditional send-off, Emeka and Chinaza boarded a flight from Murtala Muhammad International Airport, headed for Accra, Ghana. It was her dream destination. The beaches, the culture, the art, and Emeka had promised to make it the best honeymoon of her life. They posted a photo at the airport departure gate, captioned, "Mr. and Mrs. Okoro, next stop. Ghana Ghana ring red heart, #honeymoon vibes, #forever begins now." Friends and followers flooded their page with congratulatory comments. Nobody could have imagined that in just days, those same comment sections would become digital memorials. From wedding bells to death silence. It was supposed to be the start of forever. But for Chinaza, it would become a final chapter she never saw coming. Accra, a city where the Atlantic Ocean kisses golden shores, where honeymooners stroll hand in hand beneath the palms of Labadi Beach. For Emeka and Chinaza Okoro, it was paradise promised. But behind the beauty, something dark had already begun to surface. It was just after 4 p.m. when the Air Peace flight from Lagos touched down at Kotoka International Airport. The sun cast a warm orange hue across the tarmac, and Chinaza leaned against Emeka's shoulder as they descended the airplane steps, both wearing matching Ankara print travel outfits. A Ghanaian tour guide held up a placard with their names. They were whisked into a black SUV, with cool air conditioning and Afrobeats playing softly in the background. Chinaza recorded short Instagram clips of the bustling city, captioned, "Accra, Ghana we outside, #honeymoon life." By sunset, they checked into a luxury oceanfront resort in Labadi. Their suite overlooked the water. A bottle of chilled champagne awaited them. Rose petals were scattered across the bed, and the glass doors opened onto a private balcony where the crashing waves created the perfect soundtrack. Emeka kissed her cheek, whispering, "Told you I'd give you heaven." Chinaza smiled, but she hesitated slightly, as if she were processing something beyond that room. Over the next 3 days, their social media feeds exploded with posts. Couples massage at a spa in OSU. Sunset dinner at Skybar 25. Photos posing at the Independence Arch. And a video of Chinaza feeding Emeka grilled tilapia with banku while laughing. Online, they looked like the perfect newlyweds. But away from the lens, the cracks began to show. Emeka grew tense whenever Chinaza's phone buzzed. One night, while she was in the bathroom, he tried to unlock her phone using her fingerprint while she slept. She woke up to see him holding it. "What the hell, Emeka? Who's messaging you at midnight? You think I'm a fool?" Chinaza was furious. "It's my cousin, Amaka. She's checking in. You don't trust me anymore? I saw you smiling when you typed. Don't play me, Zaza." They argued well into the night, voices rising, only to calm with forced apologies. In the morning, Emeka booked them a private tour to Cape Coast Castle, trying to make peace. But the mood had shifted. On the fourth day, while Emeka was in the shower, Chinaza finally replied to an old WhatsApp message she had left unread for weeks. From Tony, her ex-boyfriend. He had messaged after seeing her wedding photos. "I hope he treats you right. I still think about you." Chinaza replied, "He tries. But I miss who I used to be." Just needed to say that. A simple message, but one that would ignite a fatal fire. Later that day, while taking photos of each other near the Makola market, Emeka noticed her clutching the phone too tightly and reading something with teary eyes. Suspicion flared. He didn't say anything then. But that night, after she slept, he broke into her WhatsApp using a data recovery app. He found the message, and he snapped. The next day, they had a rooftop dinner reservation at Kempinski Hotel, something Chinaza had been looking forward to since arriving in Ghana. But Emeka was cold, distant. He said little. He didn't touch his food. Chinaza tried to hold his hand, but he pulled away. "You lied to me," he finally muttered. "What are you talking about?" "Tony, the message. I saw it." Chinaza's eyes widened. "You went through my phone?" Again, the waiter approached, sensing tension. But Chinaza forced a smile and waved him off. Emeka leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "You'll embarrass me? On our honeymoon? After all I did for you?" "It was one message," Chinaza whispered back. "It meant nothing." But Emeka's eyes were hollow. Something in him had shifted. Something silent, but sinister. That night, Chinaza posted her last Instagram story. A photo of her reflection in the hotel elevator. Captioned, "Smiling through it. Crescent moon victory hand medium skin tone hashtag Acronites." No one could have guessed what followed would make headlines across two nations. They came to Ghana for love. But love is fragile. And when it is mixed with obsession, control, and betrayal, it begins to crack. Emeka Okoro had just discovered what he considered the ultimate betrayal. But what he did next would drag them both into a storm they could never escape. The hotel room was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that follows a storm. Chinaza sat on the edge of the bed, her fingers nervously fumbling with the hem of her robe. The golden Ghanaian sunset from the balcony no longer seemed romantic, just distant. Across the room, Emeka stood with his back turned, staring at his reflection in the full-length mirror. His eyes, once bright with love, were dark and unfocused. He hadn't spoken a word since dinner. Chinaza knew what was brewing inside him. She had seen that look before. Back in Lagos, during a heated fight months ago when he'd shoved her against the bedroom wall. She had forgiven him then. Love makes excuses. But tonight felt different. "Emeka," she whispered, "please say something." He didn't respond. It was just one message. It was nothing. Still silence. "I didn't sleep with him. I didn't even meet him. I just replied. I was overwhelmed. I needed a moment to feel like me again." He turned slowly, his face expressionless. "You needed him to feel like you?" His voice was calm, but laced with menace. "I married you, Chinaza. I brought you here. Spent every last naira I had to give you this dream. And you were still thinking about him." She shook her head, her eyes already welling with tears. "I love you. I chose you. Please don't twist this." He stepped closer. She instinctively pulled her knees up onto the bed. "Do you think I'm a joke?" he hissed. "Do you think you can humiliate me and walk around like everything's okay?" Chinaza had seen the pattern before. The calm before his rage. It started with a cold stare. Then came the verbal abuse. Sometimes the walls trembled with his voice. Other times his hands made contact, quick, sharp, then followed by apologies. "You made me angry. I was drunk. You know I love you, right?" She used to believe him. But since their engagement, the violence had become more frequent. Friends warned her. One even begged her not to go through with the wedding. "Marriage changes men," Chinaza had told herself. "He'll get better." But now, in this Accra hotel room, with her phone screen shattered against the wall and Emeka looming over her, she realized something chilling. He wasn't going to get better. He was getting worse. The next morning, while Emeka stepped out to get breakfast, Chinaza made a secret call to her cousin Amaka back in Nigeria. "Amaka, he hit me again last night. He grabbed my neck. He said if I ever talk to another man again, he'll throw me in the ocean." "Zaza, Jesus, you have to leave. Come home." "I can't. My passport's in his bag. I think he changed the lock code. And I don't want to cause a scene. Not in another country. I'm booking you a return flight right now. Just tell hotel security. Or go to the Nigerian embassy. I'll think of something. Just don't tell Mama. Please." She hung up and sat silently, staring at the bathroom mirror. A faint bruise was forming beneath her collarbone. She dabbed on foundation and smiled weakly into her phone for one final video diary entry. Day 5. Accra. Still breathing barely. The hotel staff had started noticing strange things. The couple, who were once inseparable, now dined in silence. Chinaza had missed the couple's kayaking tour she'd booked in advance. Room service workers heard raised voices, thuds, and once, the unmistakable sound of glass breaking. A housekeeper, Lydia, later recalled, "I knocked on the door after hearing a loud noise. The husband opened the door halfway. He smiled and said, 'Sorry, she slipped in the bathroom. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know if I was allowed.' Management didn't intervene. The hotel had a strict policy about disturbing guests' privacy unless a formal complaint was made, and Chinaza hadn't filed one. She was trapped, physically and emotionally. On day 6, Emeka posted a selfie of them at Jamestown Lighthouse. Chinaza's smile was forced, her eyes strained. The caption read, "Still winning with the Queen. #love of my life Red Heart, Ghana." But behind the image was a broken woman, living in fear. That night, Emeka surprised her with a candlelight dinner on the beach. "Let's start over," he said. "No more fights. Just us." She nodded silently. She wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him. But the moment he asked her to give him her phone password again, she knew this wasn't peace. It was a trap. In a foreign land, surrounded by beauty, Chinaza Okoro was living her worst nightmare, hidden in plain sight. And with each hour, Emeka's mask of sanity was slipping, revealing the monster that had been waiting all along. The tropical breeze brushed through the swaying palms outside the hotel, but inside room 208, the air was heavy, suffocating. Chinaza sat at the vanity table, brushing her hair slowly. Her skin was flawless, her posture poised, the perfect picture of a glowing bride. But in the mirror she could see him, Emeka, sitting silently on the edge of the bed, scrolling through his second phone. He wasn't talking. He hadn't talked much all day. She wanted to ask him what he was thinking, what he was planning, but something in her gut told her not to. His silence was sharp, like a blade waiting to be drawn. They had grown quiet around each other. No more giggles, no more affectionate touches. The closeness was gone, replaced with cold tolerance and thinly veiled dread. Later that morning, Chinaza joined Emeka by the pool. They posed for photos, smiling, laughing, sipping fruity drinks from hollowed pineapples. To onlookers, they were the image of a happy couple. She even posted an Instagram story, the caption reading, "Sun, sea, and my person son, couple with heart water wave #Ghana getaway." But what she didn't post was the bruise on her hip from where he shoved her into the dresser the night before, or the way he snatched her phone during breakfast when she giggled at a video on TikTok. What she didn't show was fear. That was the mask she wore now, and she wore it well. That evening, Chinaza went down to the hotel bar while Emeka was taking a shower. She didn't order a drink. She just sat at the far corner table, hunched over her phone, texting frantically. "Amaka, I think I'm in real danger. He keeps accusing me of cheating, even when I'm asleep. He watches my every move. He took my passport. I don't know what to do." Her cousin replied immediately, "Go to the front desk and ask for help. Get security. You can't stay another night in that room." "I'm scared," Chinaza responded. "If I try to leave, he'll snap. It was the last message she would send that night. At the reception, Lydia, the same housekeeper who'd noticed bruises on Chinaza's arms earlier in the week, discreetly asked the manager to check on room 208. "Something's not right with that couple," she said. "The woman. She looks trapped." The manager hesitated. "Unless she says something directly, we can't get involved." So they didn't, and Chinaza returned to her room alone. That night, Emeka set up a romantic surprise on their balcony. Candles, wine, Ghanaian highlife music playing softly from a speaker. "Let's start fresh," he said. "I overreacted. I know that. But I just love you too much." Chinaza sat in silence. "I know I've been difficult," he continued. "But you have to meet me halfway. You can't talk to exes and expect me to be calm." She looked at him, eyes filled with both exhaustion and disbelief. "I didn't do anything to you, Emeka." He stared at her, then slowly smiled. "Let's not ruin the rest of this trip. We still have time." He poured wine into her glass and raised his own. "To forgiveness." She clinked her glass, then took a sip, her hands trembling. It was always like this, an explosion, then an embrace. A slap, then a kiss. Rage, then romance. She told herself she'd get through the trip. She just had to survive 3 more days. The next morning, they joined a group excursion to Bodie Falls, a popular honeymoon spot several hours from Accra. Chinaza wore a bright yellow sundress. She smiled. She posed for pictures. She held his hand. But something had changed. She no longer looked at him when he wasn't looking. She no longer laughed with him. And when their hands touched, she didn't squeeze. She froze. Emeka noticed, and it infuriated him. That evening, back at the resort, Emeka asked her for her phone. Again. "I just want to see who you're texting." Chinaza shook her head. "No more. I'm not a prisoner." He exploded. "You're hiding something. After everything I've done for you." He lunged at her, grabbing her wrist so tightly she screamed. For the first time, the couple in the room next door banged on the wall. There was a pause. Emeka backed away. Chinaza crumpled to the floor, sobbing. "I hate what you've turned this into," she cried. "I don't even recognize you." He stared down at her. "Then maybe you should leave." "I will." Those 2 words sealed her fate. Every tragedy has a moment, the final calm before the storm. For Chinaza Okoro, that moment came just after sunset, with the smell of grilled seafood in the air, the sound of waves crashing nearby, and her heart quietly preparing for escape. The sun dipped low over the Atlantic, painting the sky in streaks of gold and rose. Tourists laughed as they rode horses along the beach. Local vendors grilled suya and tilapia. And from a distance, the fire dancers began warming up for the resort's weekly beachside party. Chinaza stood by the balcony of room 208, staring at the horizon. It was her 6th night in Accra. 6 days since she had called this place a dream. Now it felt like a cage. Behind her, Emeka was putting on his wristwatch and spraying cologne, getting ready for the resort party. He walked toward her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "You look beautiful," he said. "Let's enjoy tonight. No drama." She forced a smile. "Okay." But her heart wasn't in it. By 8 p.m., the couple arrived at the beach party. Tiki torches illuminating the sand, live drummers creating a rhythmic heartbeat under the stars. A crowd had gathered near the bonfire. Laughter echoed. Drinks flowed. Chinaza wore a red satin dress and strappy sandals. Her makeup was minimal, but her beauty turned heads. Emeka stayed close to her, holding her hand tightly, almost possessively. At first, they danced. Slowly, quietly. Chinaza moved mechanically, avoiding his eyes. He noticed, but said nothing. Then, a local tour guide they'd met on their excursion, Kwame, a charming, chatty man in his early 30s, approached with a friendly smile. "Hey, you guys made it. Welcome." He offered Emeka a fist bump and nodded at Chinaza, who smiled genuinely for the first time that night. "You look stunning, madam." It was a harmless compliment, but Emeka's eyes narrowed. Kwame continued chatting for a few minutes, telling them about the fire dance routine and asking if they were still interested in the canopy walk at Kakam National Park the next day. Chinaza responded with enthusiasm. Yes, definitely. I need one more adventure before we go. Emeka remained silent, and then Chinaza laughed. A real, light-hearted laugh at something Kwame said. That was the spark. As soon as Kwame walked away, Emeka turned sharply to her. What was that? What did you just say? You were giggling with him like some flirtatious college girl. Emeka, it was harmless. Just a conversation. Don't insult my intelligence, Zaza. I saw the way you looked at him. The way you smiled. You were flirting. And right in front of me. You're making a scene over nothing. You're making me look like a fool. His voice had climbed just enough to draw curious glances from a few nearby guests. Chinaza leaned in, lowering her voice. Keep it down. You're drawing attention. He stepped closer, his eyes glinting with quiet rage. You already did. Before the tension could spiral, a waiter appeared, slightly hesitant, carrying a tray of drinks. Sir, ma'am, would you care for something to drink? No, Emeka snapped, dismissing him with a wave. Chinaza seized the moment and walked away, toward the resort building. Her eyes stung. She wouldn't cry in front of strangers. Emeka remained behind, chest heaving, fists clenched, eyes glued to her disappearing figure. Later, hotel security footage would timestamp Chinaza's return to room 208 at 8:43 p.m. The camera caught her glancing down at her phone. A message later recovered showed she had texted her cousin. We had another fight. I'm done. I'm leaving first thing in the morning. That message would never get a reply. At 8:58 p.m., Emeka followed. He moved with purpose, face tight with fury. He bypassed the main entrance and slipped in through the rear hallway, entering the room without a word to staff. That would be the last time anyone saw the couple alive. At 9:30 p.m., a housekeeping attendant approached room 208 with fresh towels, but a do not disturb tag hung from the knob. There was no sound from within. Meanwhile, the celebration on the beach continued. Music, laughter, fire dancers tossing flaming torches into the sky. Perfect honeymoon setting. But behind that sealed door, horror was unfolding. The next morning, Lydia, a housekeeper, wheeled her cart down the hallway. Routine rounds. Knock. Clean. Move on. When she reached room 208, something felt off. The do not disturb sign was still there. Same as last night. She raised her hand to knock, then noticed the door wasn't latched. She pushed it slightly, creaked open. What she saw inside would haunt her forever. The curtains were mostly drawn. Morning sunlight leaked through faintly. A chair was overturned. A wine glass lay shattered on the floor. Blood dark, already drying, was splashed across the white bedsheets. Chinaza's lifeless body lay stretched across the bed. Her head was slumped to one side. A deep, brutal slash gaped across her throat. Blood soaked through the mattress, pooling onto the floor. Her arms bore defensive wounds. Her nightgown torn at the shoulder. One sandal by the door, the other under the dresser. She had fought. She had screamed. And she had died alone. Lydia's scream echoed down the hallway. Hotel staff came running. The floor was locked down within minutes. Paramedics arrived, but there was nothing to be done. 7:22 a.m. Chinaza Okoro was pronounced dead. By 8:15 a.m., the room had become a full-blown crime scene. Gloves, cameras, evidence bags. It told a savage story. Signs of a violent struggle. A broken wine bottle, blood-stained, likely the murder weapon. No forced entry. No theft. Chinaza's phone was smashed deliberately. Her Nigerian passport was gone. Security reviewed CCTV. Chinaza entered at 8:43 p.m. Emeka followed at 8:58 p.m. He never exited. Not through the main door. Not via the hallway. But, at 2:17 a.m., a figure matching Emeka's build appeared on footage exiting via a back stairwell. He wore a black hoodie, a cap, and carried a small duffel bag. His head stayed down. He avoided every camera. He vanished into the night. By 11 a.m., headlines blazed across Ghana. Nigerian woman found dead at Labadi Beach Resort, husband missing. The Nigerian High Commission was notified. Back in Lagos, Chinaza's family received the call. Her mother collapsed. Her father stood stunned, his voice breaking. Dead? In Ghana? No. This has to be a mistake. Her cousin Amaka sobbed. She had been the last person Chinaza texted. Social media erupted. Photos of the couple's honeymoon, once dreamy, now chilling, were everywhere. Comments flooded in. We saw the signs. Rest in peace, Queen. He looked normal, how? Chinaza's final Instagram story, still breathing barely, became viral. Hashtags surged. Hashtag justice for Chinaza. Hashtag Ghana honeymoon murder. Hashtag say no to domestic violence. The autopsy results were devastating. Cause of death: exsanguination due to a deep slash to the throat. Secondary injuries: bruises, cracked ribs, a shallow stab wound to the abdomen. Estimated time of death: between 10:30 p.m. and midnight. She had suffered. She had bled slowly. She had died in terror. Interpol issued a red notice. Ghanaian CID launched a regional manhunt. Emeka's name and face went public. His phone was off. Bank accounts frozen. But he hadn't disappeared, he was on the move. At 2:17 a.m., he left the hotel by the stairwell, hailed a local taxi, paid in cash, changed clothes, turned off his phone. By tracking witness tips and bus station cameras, police discovered he boarded a long-haul bus to Kumasi. Day 4, he checked into a roadside lodge under a fake name. Day 5, Ghanaian police raided the lodge. He didn't fight. He didn't speak. When arrested, Emeka looked ragged. Inside his bag, Chinaza's missing passport, a bloodied shirt, and cash. At the station, he gave a haunting confession. I didn't mean to kill her. I lost control. She betrayed me. On our honeymoon. He blamed a message she sent to an ex, claimed he blacked out. But police weren't buying it. No signs of forced entry. No defensive injuries on Emeka. Broken wine bottle used. Her phone destroyed. He was charged with first-degree murder. Chinaza's body was flown back to Nigeria. A sealed coffin. Hundreds gathered for her funeral. Friends wept. Her parents clutched her wedding photo. She deserved better. Why didn't she leave? Media across West Africa covered every grim detail. Former friends came forward. He was always controlling. She thought she could fix him. Amaka revealed the final texts. I'm done. I'm leaving. Emeka's trial was held in Accra. He pleaded not guilty. But the prosecution laid out a devastating case. Forensic analysis of blood and wounds. Security footage. The broken phone. His suspicious exit. Her final message. His defense claimed emotional distress. Temporary insanity. The court wasn't convinced. Chinaza's father broke down on the stand. Her mother collapsed midway through her testimony. 3 weeks later, the verdict came. Guilty. Sentence: life imprisonment with hard labor. Emeka was led away in silence. Room 208 was closed permanently. Staff whispered about strange chills. Lights flickering. Sobs at night. Chinaza's mother founded the Chinaza Voice Project, a non-profit for women in abusive relationships. Her death became more than a tragedy. It became a movement. If he hits you once, he'll do it again. If your gut says run, listen. Even if it's your honeymoon.